Thanks for coming to my talk, Ducking Duck, Rubber Duck 2.0, building an AI-powered rubber duck. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dale. I'm the guy with the duck. I've been doing programming for 24 plus years. I'm a tech lead and senior developer at a company called DLX. My day job isn't building ducks, don't worry. In my free time, I take things apart. Last year, I took some watches apart. I'm most famous for posting lots and lots of homemade pizza on Twitter and other social media. And I'm a regular speaker at B-Sides, Cape Town, and I guess now DevConf, this being my second one. I always introduce myself as a jack of all trades, serial skill collector, and high-functioning hoarder. My wife will argue about the high-functioning part. I enjoy collecting skills. This is the product of when collecting skills goes horribly, horribly wrong. So, for those of you who don't know, what is rubber ducking? I'm going to assume most of you have heard this term, but for those of you who don't, it's pretty simple. No, it works like this. You buy a rubber duck, you place your rubber duck on the desk, you explain every line of code that you're having a problem with to the duck, what it's supposed to do, etc. And then you sit back in amazement as you find the problem. And this works for things other than code. If you talk to your coworker when you're stuck about something, when you talk to the pot plant, the cat, although they don't tend to listen, or the dog, which gets hyper excited, you'll find that you solve your problem while talking. And the reason for this is that your brain thinks of the problem differently. You're not staring at a screen, rereading the same 3 lines of code over and over. Now, I decided, can AI make this any better? Yes. No, so let's find out. The simple way to do this is I'm going to build my own duck. So that's what I did. Now, I am of a firm belief, and please, I hope there's no project managers here, so if you are, just stick your fingers in your ears and go la 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 for the next bit. Constraints make problems interesting. This project has a lot of constraints. A lot of them are self-imposed. It goes like this. Time constraint. I had about 3 months from the DevConf talk being accepted till now. This was not the one I'd hoped they'd selected. This one required more work. Rob liked it. Other people liked it. I'm now here talking about a duck. Money. After last year's smartwatch fiasco, I was told I have to keep values low. As my wife puts it, a single eyebrow-raising amount. That's exactly what I did. Each individual component in the duck is below that value. Okay? We are not totaling this number up. No one is posting to social media the final price of this duck. Trust me, it's about 1,000 Rand. Okay, just remember that. Next, it needs to be portable. Now, arguably, that is not portable, and I can't take it as carry-on. So I checked it in the hold under Rob's name. It was much simpler that way. I had to bring it to Joburg. That's going to be a problem. And next, no GPU. GPUs are expensive. They require computers. I don't have money. I don't have constraints. I did try and get people to pay for my GPUs. I asked my wife if we could sell a car or a child to buy a bunch of GPUs. She said no. I asked my employer, who are awesome. Some of the DLX folks are in the crowd. They went no. I did try and expense claim it. It was turned down. So I had to make another plan. And then finally, my plan was my duck had to run offline. I've seen the movies. You don't connect smart AI to the internet. So that's my plan. Okay, simple. Few small constraints, nothing big. So the plan. Now you must know that the following drawing is sort of how I planned this when I submitted to DevConf. It's simple, right? Nothing complicated. We've got a camera. The camera feeds into some face tracking stuff. That goes into the duck body control software, which then controls the eyes. Then we've got a microphone. The microphone picks up voice. It then feeds that into the duck control, central duck control software. What that does is it's basically a prompt engine, and it builds a prompt, feeds it to an LLM model, that then takes that output, feeds it out to the text-to-speech, which then says the words. As it says the words, it moves the beak. Now also there's supposed to be some head movement, but that went very, very wrong along the way, so we've currently turned that off. And that's basically it. Simple, right? Easy to do, no problem. There's only one catch. I was going to do this offline, which means I have to build all these things. I can't go and use the internet stuff. I can't go load this on AWS. I can't go load it on Google Cloud or any of those kind of things. I can't plug ChatGPT into this. I have to put all the stuff together myself. How hard could it be? I think every single one of my talks has this picture in it. Yeah, so several months later, I haven't seen my family, and I built this. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just walk you through all the hardware that's in the duck, just in a brief, quick thing for those of you who are curious. So the first step is the compute. So in this case, I'm using a Raspberry Pi 5. In particular, I've got a few 8 gigs and a 4 gig. And yes, I've also connected these to two 128 gig NVMe SSDs because I need storage for the models. Yes, they also, there's a 100-watt power supply inside of the duck because I have to power all these things. And Raspberry Pis are particularly sensitive about how much power you give them. Next was audio. Now, there's this long-running joke. Now, I've been using Linux for, I don't know, 30 years or something, that on Linux, no one can hear you scream because the sound never works. I can tell there's Linux people in the crowd. Okay, so I bought this thing. I happen to have one in a box somewhere. It's a soundboard that plugs onto the, or sound hat that plugs on top of the Pi. And it's got 2 built-in microphones, which is quite nice. And it can directly drive a set of speakers. Unfortunately, it doesn't play well with Raspberry Pi 5s. It doesn't play well with the new OS or 64-bit. So I spent about 3 weeks of my 3 months patching the drivers and hacking on them to get them to work. Yes, I could have used a USB sound card, but when you're in the moment, all those things disappear. Anyway, I was having fun. So yeah, I did that. Then we've got the servo driver. Now, this controls a bunch of hobby servos and makes the head move, or at least it was supposed to, and it makes the beak move. Not that well, but that was the plan. In hindsight, this was a terrible idea. I should have just stuck them on a little microcontroller separately, but I thought, hey, I'm in and I have one of these, let's go for it. So this sends signals to a few of these things, which move everything about. I thought I was being smart and went one up from the cheapest. I shouldn't have. I should have just gone for the most expensive servos I could find because I destroyed a few of these in the process, including at about 10 p.m. on Sunday night, this Sunday night. So you must know what I was doing on Sunday night when I was hoping to sleep. Eyes. The duck's got 2 eyes. I know it gets washed up, all the lights, but it's got 2 eyes. Those are 2 round LCDs. These are kind of like the ones in watches. I have some experience with watches, so this was kind of fun. For those who are curious, it's actually square, but you don't get to see the pixels around the edges, but that's how it's treated. So I've got 2 of these round LCDs in there. I've got a camera. It's just one of the Pi cameras. I don't know that it's that particular one, but it's just a Pi camera. Then there is the body. This is where a lot of work went into. So the body itself was all, the outer shell was all designed in Blender, which is a 3D graphics package, because it works very well with curved shapes and things like that. The internals are all done on Onshape, which is a CAD tool that happens to run in the browser. I just happen to know it and used it. It's not that it's the best or the worst or anything like that. It's just the one I happen to know and have been using lately. And there's a lot of mechanical parts in and out the duck. That was all printed out of PLA, normal cheap plastic on the 3D printers. And for those of you curious, it's printed on a Creality K1, not a Max. I really wish I had spent that extra $3,000 and bought the Max because more of the duck would have fitted into it. Otherwise, this is it printing. At the moment, this was the longest individual component of the duck, and that's its face. This was a 15-hour print. It survived, thankfully, because Eskom's push didn't do any load shedding. You do know they control all the load shedding, right? So yeah, they didn't do any load shedding, so it printed. My floor is now covered in little trees. Yeah, 3D printing's fun. Next up, this is another one of the parts. I think this is part of the body. These are relatively small prints. They're only 5 or 6 hours. On normal printers or on your bed slinger style printers, these jobs take about twice as long. So you must know that like having the K1 was a huge benefit, especially because a lot of parts got printed 3 or 4 times. 3D printing is fantastic because it's like coding. You can do it iteratively. So you build a part, you discover you got the measurements wrong, you reprint the part, you discover you still have the measurements wrong, you then 3D print it again, and you go, oh, it's still the wrong shape, or it clashes with something else. Now imagine doing all that, but inside of a duck body. Yeah, and I couldn't put them all into the same CAD tool, because when I took the drawing from Blender and I pushed it into Onshape went, ooh, too many triangles, and it all freaked out and fell apart. So this was guesswork, lots of printing. My office is now cluttered with tons of bits of duck. If anyone wants a duck head that's slightly smaller, let me know. I'm happily auction it off. Okay, so yeah. So in total, there's about 150 hours, more or less, of printing in this duck. It might be more, but that's sort of what I guessed based on what the printer says. But it's probably maybe even 200 hours. I don't know. It's 3 months. I've lost track of time. I know I went through at least 5 1-kilogram spools of PLA. It's not all in the duck. Some of it is on the floor now, but you get the idea. No, I'm not telling you how much PLA costs per roll. We're not totaling it, please. So this was fun. Now we get on to the fun bits, the software. So it's got voice recognition. I'm using a technology, a model or a system called Whisper CPP. It's built by OpenAI, or the underlying models are, and it allows for continuous voice recognition. If you've got GPUs and you've got a decent computer, it's real time. I'm running it on a Pi 5. It's kind of real time. I'm running it on the smallest model, which means that the accuracy is pretty terrible, but it's still not bad. And it kind of catches every 4th word, so it's good enough. I'm using that particular library, which is very cool because it's got Python bindings, and theirs are more up to date and it works better and all that. It's some guy who forked some repo and then just approved all the PRs that were sitting there. And so that's basically the difference, but it works. Voice recognition is interesting because it recognizes things other than voices. So yeah, as someone said, I may want to find a water closet pretty quickly in that case. But yes, it detects like music, doors slamming, sneezing, things like that. So I've had to filter out a lot of these things because obviously you can't send a language model the word farting and expect it to come back with anything that makes sense. For text-to-speech, I'm using something called Piper. Piper's really cool. It's part of the Home Assistant. If you're into home automation stuff, they use it in there as well. It's a very, very decent quality. I'm not going to say high quality, but decent quality text-to-speech engine. It's interesting because you can't parse words. It struggles with words, but if you do full sentences, it's pretty decent. The one thing I wish it did have was things like laughing and stuff like that. Unfortunately, this particular model doesn't. The models that do all those kind of cool features where you can put a little tag and say laugh or things like that, they don't run on Pis. They need GPUs. I don't have GPUs, so I'm doing the best I can. There's a couple of voices. I'm using a British female voice for Miss Duckworth, so it makes sense. For the LLM, or the large language model, I'm using a tool called Ollama. If you're going to play with models locally, this is amazing. It allows you to basically load any of the language models inside of a Docker container on your local machine. It gives us the same API across all of them, so you can switch out models without changing your code. You can test stuff, play with it, etc. There is a UI that you can plug on top of this, so then you can control it. You can do pass-through, so if you've happen to be one of those lucky ones with an NVIDIA GPU, you can pass through and do all that kind of stuff, and it makes playing with them very, very nice. This is more or less what started this whole thing, was basically playing with this, going, oh, this is kind of cool. The language models gets interesting. Now, I'm not going to go into detail what a language model is. I don't even know for sure. I'm not an AI expert. I know nothing. I'm just an idiot who downloaded some files and put them on a computer and shoved it in a duck. These are the ones I've been playing with. Now, when you're choosing a language model for a duck, you don't want accuracy. Accuracy doesn't matter. You also don't want a model that tells you that it can't tell you the answer. I don't want to tell my duck, hello, what is the color of the sky, or how do you feel today, and have the duck go, as an AI model, I don't understand because I don't have a body. Or as an AI model, I don't have an opinion of. That's boring. I want models that just freak out, hallucinate, and dump a whole lot of rubbish there, because that's entertaining and fun. So, I started off using Llama 2. Llama 2 is the best for this. There's a particular version of Llama 2 called Llama 2 Uncensored Chat. Now, when I say uncensored, that means all the guardrails have been taken off. The thing completely goes crazy, but it's fun. So if you're going to play with them, that's cool. The problem is the time it takes for it to generate a response is too long. And so you end up waiting 2 minutes while the duck thinks. So I decided to not use that. For a long time, I was using the Gemma 2B one. That's done by Google. It was very, very nice. Up until about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, there was a new update. And the new model, they put a couple of more checks in. And now it's not as much fun. And it complains about stuff. And it doesn't want to speculate about the political climate of random countries. So I had to find something else. So I switched to Tiny Llama. Tiny Llama is not that good. It doesn't know a lot of stuff, but it hallucinates fantastically. So that's good enough for me. Now, the trick here is you build what they call a system prompt. So you create this prompt, and I'll show you the one that I'm running on the duck later. But basically, this prompt precedes your prompt. And all it's doing is it's telling the LLM how to react. So I have one basically, pretend you're a duck and you're talking at DevConf. And that's about it. Oh, I'd put rubber ducking in there too. Tiny Llama doesn't know what rubber ducking is. It tells me it's something about QA testing and ABs and I don't know what all. So that's why I said it's not very good. Otherwise, I've got face detection. For that, I'm just using OpenCV with this particularly good library called face recognition. It's for Python. It's pretty cool. That does all the magic of finding faces, etc. Unfortunately, it doesn't find everyone's face. Right now, it can't see anything. All it sees is bright lights and blurry things over there. So yeah, good luck. The eyes, like I said, there's 2 round LCDs. Those are connected to the 2 SPI buses on the Raspberry Pi. The eyes are drawn using Python. So what I do is I generate all the images by combining those 2 images together with a white background, and then moving the pupil side around depending on where I want it to look. And then I take the final image, shove that out over the SPI. It's not super fast, and you'll notice as it blinks that they're slightly out of sync, but I feel it gives it character rather than it being something I need to fix. Here you can see the duck, and if you watch its eyes, it's busy moving around as it blinks. That's me with my camera trying to take a photo, and it's busy tracking my face. Otherwise, I built a dashboard so that I could see what the duck was doing and thinking and planning and saying and all this kind of stuff. Also because I run the duck a lot muted, because having a talking duck on your desk that basically speaks every time you say a word gets a bit much. The dashboard's built using, I'm not a front-end developer. Don't ever let me near your front-end. The front-end's built using HTMX because it's simple. It's using Daisy UI because it looked kind of cool. And otherwise, it's Python and Flask on the back end. Just a warning, I'm not a Python developer. I'm a C# dev, so I code Python like C#. Otherwise, it's simple. You put all this together, and you have a duck. So this is what I like to refer to as integration hell. This is where you discover that Bob likes kebab case, and Jane likes camel case, and someone else likes their own version. And now you're bringing it all together and you discover that nothing works. The catch is, I'm Bob, I'm Jane, and I'm the other dude. I built all this stuff, and when I brought it all together, it didn't work. I got APIs wrong, I got stuff wrong. Somehow I screwed up JSON in places. You don't want to know how long it took me to get all the bits and pieces, not only to fit in the duck, but to actually work together. So that was interesting. So quick recap. I have a duck service, which runs the eyes, the motors, the camera, and the face tracking. I have the duck control service that runs the dashboard and my prompt generation. I have Ollama, which has got the LLM. I've got voice recognition called Whisper, and I have text-to-speech. Now I need to get this all running. Now remember my constraints, and realize that I have a lot of compute-intensive software to run. Now, no adding up what this comes to, but here is how you do it. You take 3 Raspberry Pis, you wrap them in a coat, you shove them in a duck, and you call it a computer. So what we did, or what I did, is Pi number 1 runs the LCDs, the fans, the camera, the servos, the stop button on the back, which doesn't seem to want to stop it from talking. And that's all wired up to the duck service and the duck control service. So those run the body, basically, or the face tracking in that, and runs the dashboard. Pi number 2 runs Ollama. This one is a 8 gig Pi 5. Pi number 3 runs the sound, and it has the sound card hooked up. So it's got the voice recognition, and it's got Piper. So yes, that's 3 Raspberry Pis. 3 Raspberry Pis, a power supply at the bottom, speakers on either side, a whole lot of USB cables, there's a camera in the head, 2 LCDs in the head as well, all shoved inside a 3D printed duck. Yes, I'm crazy. Yes, I should never have submitted this. It was a lot of fun and a lot of hard work. So I'm going to try and do a live demo. I'm sorry. Please don't hold me responsible for any of this. I'm just a guy who downloaded code from the internet and shoved it into a duck. Please, please. I don't know what it's going to say. So duck it. We're doing this live. Let's see if I can work out how to use a computer. So right now, that's the dashboard. It's been quietly listening to me. So there's what it's heard so far today while it's been sitting here. There's some O's. There's no, I don't know what it's like. We're gonna, and oh. Now I'm gonna go closer to the duck quick and just speak to the duck on its own, and we'll see if this works. I'm not holding my breath, but let's go for it and say, hello, Miss Duckworth. Let me just see what it recognized. It doesn't have keywords or any of that kind of stuff because I'm lazy. So it just answers. So there's Mr. Hello, Mr. Stuckwell. Yeah. So one of the problems is the fans are the most powerful small fans I could get. They put these into 1U server racks into the servers. I've got 2 of them in here, cranked at full speed. They don't really help, but they make a lot of whooshing noises. The microphone sits just below them, which is just behind the grill, inside a plastic duck, so you must know it's fantastic. I do have an external mic I could have plugged in right now, but honestly, this thing hasn't got a hope of hearing half the words I say, but it's fun. Like I say, it's not hearing any of the words I've said at the moment. I've got a manual mode where I can type a command in and it will answer me like that. So the other nice thing is you'll see on the right there, that's the face tracking. It's seen a face at some point, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go stand in front of it quick. I know you guys can't see the eyes because the eyes are getting filtered out, but I'm going to go stand here and I'm going to wave my face around. And if I stand just right and look at it, come on. Okay, no, it's not going to see me. Oh, that sucks. Okay, well, we'll have to do, I'll put it somewhere later and you guys can come and wave your faces at it and see if it sees you. But yeah, so now we're going to have the real fun bit. We're going to do a chat. So the way this works is I can send it text and it will answer. So I'm just going to say, hello. I was going to say you can turn on the mic. So let's go, hello, Miss Duckworth. And we'll give it a moment. It's not fast. Unfortunately, I learned that Raspberry Pis throttle themselves. They also get very, very warm. I have gotten this duck up to 98 degrees. at which temperature hot glue goes very sticky and comes undone. So now it should speak.
Greetings. Cliff Duckworth at your service. I am delighted to assist you with your inquiries. How may I assist you today?
And yeah. So it's not fast because the problem is the pies are throttling themselves slightly. Also, somewhere in the chain of things and over the last few weeks, I've introduced a delay somewhere. I don't know why. It's asking a bit much for 3 Raspberry Pis in a trench coat to pretend to be a GPU or multiple GPUs. I'm pretty sure this would run fantastically if someone was willing to give me a few. If anyone does, my details at the end, just send them over. It's no problem. I accept cash. Anything else, it's fine. I can do other cool things. So if I wanted to, I can go in here. So there's my, down at the bottom is the system prompt that I'm currently using. It's pretty simple. Pretend you're Mrs. Duckworth, a female British AI rubber duck created by Dale Nunns for DevConf. A DevConf developer conference, and answer all the questions in short replies. So if I said, say hi at DevConf, see what it says. Oh, okay. Yeah, not the best. She'll probably say a few extra words now. There we go.
Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you. I am Miss Duckworth, the AI rubber duck at the DevConf conference. How can I assist you?
I do pass the context back into the language model, so it keeps track of what it's saying. Tiny Llama's context window is very, very small, so it doesn't hold a lot. The bigger models are quite cool because you can actually keep quite a long conversation running. It gets a little bit weird because, like I said, I'm talking to a duck. It talks back, but with a slight delay. Having this on my desk and being involved on a Zoom call is amazing because I'm busy talking on the Zoom call and all of a sudden the duck starts up in the corner and starts babbling. One of the interesting problems I ran into is that when it's speaking, you have to mute the microphone. And it turns out that mute doesn't mean mute. So when I muted the microphone, it could still kind of hear, which means that it took the words that it was saying and then fed them back into the language model, which then generated an output and then said it. And it would just keep on going round and round in a circle. At the time, I wasn't in my little room with the duck. I was having a cup of coffee, chatting to my wife. And I walk back in, and I'm sitting down, I'm listening to it busy talk, and it goes, I'm sorry, as an AI model, I cannot commit violence. Yeah, so I don't know what it was talking about. But that's what I say. Like, this is the thing. AI is kind of cool and all the rest. But the more time you play with it, and if you break it, and you do all these weird things with it, you discover that sometimes it's not as good as everyone makes it out to be. It gets a lot of stuff wrong. It gets some things very, very wrong. I asked it what the capital of South Africa was. And one of the models said, I cannot speculate on the political climate of South Africa or anything about the kings and queens here. So, like I say, yeah. But it's been fun. And I'm learning a ton of stuff. And yes, I'll do all this again and I'll play with it some more. So now, one of the cool things is, of course, is I've got a voice engineer, so I can go do this. And let's see what she'll say. Oh, wait. Okay, hang on.
Hello, I am delighted to assist you. What can I do for you today?
So now, ideally, that kind of thing would happen. An eye would go red, maybe. You know, should rise up and storm off the stage. But yeah, so that's my talk. Let's do it big. So that's my talk. I'm Dale. This is Miss Duckworth. If you have any questions for me, let me know. I believe we've got 10 minutes. Oh, I forgot. I got ducks. Who wants a duck? Oh, that's why everyone came, isn't it? Oh man, I throw better than I thought I would. Don't worry, there's more. Chinatown, there's no more ducks in Chinatown. And and another one down there. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm all ducked out. Cool. So, oh yes, please vote for me. Actually, vote for the duck. She could do with a screen and one of those cool little boards with the buttons. So, you can say what you like in the comment section. I don't care about that. Just make sure you give her the highest rating you possibly can. We could do with some new toys. Otherwise, thanks. If you have any questions, you've got a few minutes to ask now. Otherwise, come find me. I'm wandering around. I'm the guy with the duck on the back. And I'm the one who's posted probably more ducks than anyone else in their life to social media. So thanks. You've been great. Cheers. Any questions? There we go. Yes.